welcome back. This is my last planned video of the week, and I'm not doing an Asian film this time. I'm doing an American film. A series of 2 films, the Jack Reacher series, that started and stopped pretty quickly. And the reason I'm doing it is the first one's good and the second one's exactly what you'd expect from a film series based on a best-selling serious character, you know. So one kind of rises well above what it should be, and one just hits exactly what you'd expect, which is why I probably want to talk about it. So it shows you how 2 different directors can take the same character and the same actor and do 2 completely different things with it. Right, so Jack Reacher is based on this character called Jack Reacher, who's this big bulking character who's apparently a genius. So it's a mix of someone who can beat everyone up but is also really smart. And he's a popular character that's been thrown into lots of books, and they're going to apparently adapt him now into a TV show somewhere. I've never read the books. I don't really care that. I'm not interested in the books. I would guess that the books are not my kind of thing, based on what I've seen. But the character's quite good. But the thing I quite liked is, in this series, is they cast someone physically different from that. They cast Tom Cruise, who's much smaller. So it basically is about a guy who can fight but is also really smart, rather than someone who's hulking and can beat everyone up. Because if a guy's hulking, why would you ever get in a fight with him in the first place? It just feels stupid. But that's his character in the book, so there you go. But the films are a mixed bag, but I've rewatched them recently. I always really liked the first film because Christopher McQuarrie wrote it and directed it, and he's a good writer and he's a pretty good director. He's very much a throwback director. He's he shoots a kind of very studio-ish way from like the 60s, 70s type of thing where you know, he likes naturalistic lighting, naturalistic locations, you know, but he still shoots action scenes. It's very much, he's a professional director who does action stories, but he brings some character to them and he brings some intelligence to them. So even if it's a conventional story, he'll find some nuances to it and it keep it going. So he's directed Where the Gun, which are covered in The Beautiful Disasters. This was his second follow-up film that actually got him out of movie jail. Because he was in movie jail because Where the Gun was such a disaster, so I think he had to do something more conventional second time out, because his first film bombed so badly, he got this chance because he wrote the script and then they asked him to direct it based on the script and what he'd done, and they thought he could direct it. So because he was friendly with Tom Cruise, because he'd written some stuff for Tom Cruise, some other films too, he got the chance to come back as director of this one. And then after that, he moved on to do the last 2 Mission Impossible movies, which were 2 of the best in the series. And I'm going to do Mission Impossible soon. So he made this film, and it's based on a book with a really good idea and a really good hook for the first half of the film, and then the film has to have a plot beyond that, and that's where there's some kinks in the story that the film does its best to get around, really, and it does it pretty well. But there's a couple of limitations that are just based on what these kind of stories are that causes problems. But the idea was very simple, and it's a really good idea. Is this guy goes and starts shooting people. He shoots 5 people who are going to a government building, and there's a park outside. So some people go into the building, some people are outside the park. But he shoots 5 people. They catch him instantly, and they say, "Okay, confess, or we're going to send you to the death penalty." And he writes down, "Get me, Jack Reacher." Then he gets attacked and is put in a coma while he's in prison because he's this psycho killer, apparently. Reacher shows up, and turns out Reacher's this guy who travels around the country, ex-military, ex-MP, very good investigator, but he's been burnt out by the army and he's just wandering around and not really been connecting to anybody. He's just a loner. Because he's an investigator, he actually turns up because he thinks the guy's guilty and he wants to make sure he's getting put away. he meets up with the defence lawyer who's doing the defence just under her dad. Her dad's a DA and she's a lawyer, so they have family issues they're trying to deal with. She thinks he's a bit corrupt and he thinks she's naive. Reacher has no time for this. He wants to leave because he thinks the guy's in a coma. Good. Let's just let him rot as far as he's concerned. She points out there's some inconsistencies in it and asks him to just investigate a little bit. And he says, okay, but you have to go and meet the families of the people who died so that you get a sense of the damage this guy did. So obviously he's not in a good place for, you know, being on her side at this point. And the story is really good there because you get the sense of you see the assassination, but it's not done gratuitously. You see the follow-up and how efficient it is, and you see the tensions, and everybody talks in a very smart-ass way, but everyone's got a point of view, and it's very clear what the point of view is. It gets from A to B very quickly, and it's a very well-made melodrama. It gets the situation, it gets the drama, and it pills it on, but it's very clear of what the stakes are. And you always get a sense of what the stakes are of the characters through each scene, and it feels very clear. And also when she goes to see the family, she's very traumatised, and when he investigates a little bit, and as people following him, he starts to get his heckles up. It's like, okay, something's up here. Then he investigates how it was done and realises there's something off here too, because the person who is accused of doing this would have done it a different way, would have been trained to do it from a different location if he ever did it. Just by training. So he knows that something's a bit off, and then he starts to see the evidence seems a bit too perfect. And then the people following him starts to make him suspicious that someone else is going on. And then as the story goes on, people start attacking him. And basically, of course, that gets him really suspicious. And then the smart thing this film does at this point actually says, when it brings in real villains in, they say to the person who ordered the attack, was like, why did you do this? That's stupid. So the thing that gets the Reacher character into the investigation is acknowledged as a stupid thing by one of the minor characters who panicked. Which is a nicer film to do, because a lot of time in the films and in the sequel, people do stupid things, and if they don't acknowledge the stupid thing or have a plot point why it's stupid, and you think it's a smart move, it makes you hate the film. And this film actually says, look, this was dumb. Why did you do it? And best of all, the villains are good. Werner Herzog is the villain. He's the main guy called the Zach, which means prisoner. His sidekick is Jai Courtney, who has not been in very many good films, but this is one of his first films, and he's really good in this. He played the villain, and he's very efficient. It's efficient, it's brutal, there's some charm there, but he's pretty much focused on getting a job done. He's someone who's out for himself, he's pretty brutal, he doesn't mind killing people, but he knows to stay in the shadows. And the person he hired for his local job didn't, and it caused havoc. And then the film escalates because this one little thread from this one mistake that this little minor guy made allows the Jack Reacher character to follow up and start seeing inconsistencies and seeing that the people who caused the actual murders were doing it for a specific reason, and now as he finds out more, they are forced to actually try and go against him, even though they don't really want to. They'd rather they just let it go and stay in the shadows. So that's what's wonderful with the film, is the idea of it. It's a creation of a fake crime to hide a real crime, and people legitimately make mistakes that allows the character to get a little thread that they pull on, and it brings out the rest of the story. The downside of the film is switching from that first perspective of this guy's guilty, we hate him, is a much more emotional sequence and a much more effective sequence than the actual conspiracy. Now, the film keeps going on. The film is very well made, So you don't mind it. But you can sense that there's a kind of slight come down from intensity from where it was at the start to where it's going. It's going towards a normal crime story. It's a really well made one. The action scenes are terrific and actually have meaning, where there's a really good car chase halfway through where Reach has been set up for something. Because he's so logical, he knows who did it, and he needs to see the face of the person who did it, because he knows they're in a car. He has to chase them down while he's getting chased by the cops. It's a terrific sequence because it's a character sequence. There's a clue involved. He needs to find this information out, and you see the character like, I'll get away once I see your face, or once I run you down, once I stop you and pound on you, if I get that chance. That's what the film does really well. There's less of an emotional attachment in the second half, because the first half had a high of what actually happened, the tragedy. The second half was because it's a crime story. Some people die who you like, but I think the film's like 10 minutes too long, and if they pushed together the middle section a bit more, I think it would be more effective. I think it just runs a little long in the middle section, but there's lots of really nice scenes in there, and it's like we don't want to lose most of them because they're fun. But you just feel it's a bit flabby in the middle that it could have lost and maybe had some intensity. Maybe needed another scene or two establishing a couple of the minor characters who don't make it through the film. They may have had more of an impact. It just feels like there's a couple of scenes that could have been there and there that would have kept the impact high during the middle section as they're switching from the setup to what's actually going on. But the end's terrific. The end is basically, it's set in a quarry, which could be the most boring setup, but because if you've seen Where the Gun, McQuarrie's really good at action scenes in a location where they had to be tactical. And he's good with guns, and he's good with people acting tactically with guns. So it becomes a suspense sequence rather than an action sequence. It's about getting from one rock to the other to get a better shot at somebody rather than a big macho scene. Then we finally get the fight between Cruise and the villain. The villain's much taller than Cruise, and he knows what he's doing too, so it's a pretty brutal fight where Cruise obviously has been the hell beaten out of him, and that really works. He gets beat up a lot in this film, and it really works because it shows you the damage he takes. And Robert Duvall shows up in a nice little part near the end, and it's a fun setup as these two people are sizing each other up. Cruise and him are sizing each other up throughout. So there's lots of really good scenes, lots of nice dialogue, characters make sense, everything works really well. It's exactly how you do a pot boiler onto a film. You know, it's like taking what was good and expanding that and try and minimise the bits that maybe are a bit just weird and don't quite work. And it minimises it really well, but you need a couple of scenes in the middle just to make it work. But it's a really well made thriller. It really works. It's a nice throwback to kind of 60s actiony characters where you have a character who doesn't take any crap from anybody, is very focused, very smart, and is up against people who are smart too. It just works. It's a nice little throwback film. The sequel's not. The sequel has a new director, Edward Zick, who did Glory and a bunch of these very kind of liberal, feel-good movies with the military, which I think are really boring. And that's the big thing, there's a massive calm down from the action stakes. There's still action scenes, it's just they're not done well. They're just done competently, but there's no like snap to them. Like the action scenes in the first film, which maybe a lot less money, have a real focus to them, like this leads to this, this leads to this. I know where I am at every opportunity, I know what the threat is, and I know what the next threat is beyond that threat too. There's a real efficiency to it, an old school efficiency, you know, that you don't see very often, but you'd see a lot in the McQuarrie Mission Impossible movies as well. Like it just went from A to B and knew where the points where you needed to hit. This one has lots of action that makes you think, well, why weren't they how did you get out of that? I know how they said to get out of it, but there's no way that would actually happen. Well, there's just massive gaps where it's like, there's no way they'd escape from there. from before they've gone, there's no way, no one would be that incompetent. And it's a question of both of scale and of competence of directing, because the character scenes in this film are good. Never go back. The character scenes are good. There's a new lead character. There's a new kind of set of villains who are much worse than the original, the first film villains. These are pretty much two characters, just like the first one had, but they're much blander and they're not that well cast. Like the villain who's chasing Cruz down this one looks a lot like Jay Counter from the first one, but is very bland. But he's written kind of as a character who was a war veteran who's traumatised and he's still in the war. That's an interesting idea, but it's never done enough with. And Cruz's character has to go and find why his contact in the military has been set up as a spy when he knows she's not. And then as soon as he investigates it, he starts to get tagged as an accessory and ends up getting set up for murder, like instantly. And you're thinking, he just arrived and suddenly he's now trying to arrest him. It just feels like, surely the army's not that stupid. Surely the army's probably look at it and go, something's dumb. And there's sequences where the guy has to go into the military jail to get this woman out who's his contact, who's been set up in case she gets killed in jail. And it's like, if she gets killed in jail, then, or taken away from the jail, then killed en route, the army would investigate it a lot. It would look dodgy. And this film never really acknowledges that. And the basic thing is, it doesn't take the premise and then run with it, because it just plays it as a normal thriller, like everyone's not showing their cards, when in fact it would be much scarier if you realised the villains were panicking and all hell was breaking loose and were dangerous because of that. That would have made the whole film work a lot better. But they don't do that, so it just doesn't really work. It's a film that needs to have a sense of, you've got villains panicking, they're going to cause a lot of damage, because every action they have causes damage, that kind of damage, but they don't act that way, and it's like really weird disconnect. It's like, there's a lot of scenes where the villain's chasing Tom Cruise's character and the people he's with, and he seems way too calm for the situation. He's trying to be this cool character when in fact the people think he's trying to cover up is spinning out of control, but the film never acknowledges that. Just trying to make it as a mystery, but anybody who was watching these things happen would look, oh, okay, something's dodgy there, we need to investigate it. So there's a plot points that don't quite match with the story, the way the story's been told, and the story still doesn't feel that smart, but you think in good hands it could have worked if they made variations to it and actually increased the paranoia of the villains and made them be panicking, be doing things out of control from the off. That would have made the film a lot better. Instead it's a film that's just a bit silly, and you get annoyed with it a lot of time because it's silly. Especially the first half. The second half, the characters set up, you can enjoy the interaction with the characters and you can see them unfolding the mystery, which is not really a mystery because you've worked it out like well in advance. There's so many things here that you can figure out well in advance. But that's the way it goes. It's just a sequel that's okay. I mean, the best part of it is there's a character that gets involved that might be Cruise's daughter, because someone's made a claim against him saying she had a daughter with him 15 years ago and she's asked him for money for him. He's not sure if it is him or not because he can't remember her, but who knows. And so because of this claim, she gets targeted by the villains. So she has to take her under his wing, as well as the person he's trying to break out, which is played by Kobe Smulders. And they are going to run through Washington, then to New Orleans to figure it out, to find someone who has information, and then to solve the mystery. But the characterization between these three characters is fun. I mean, that's what it does best, is because Zwick is an old television guy and he's good with actors, and that works. He's just not good with action. he does all these action movies, and the action's always pretty bland and blah. It's like, you never learn how to do action, you do action movies, what the hell's going on? It's always kind of these bland scenes, and this film is full of bland scenes that don't have any impact. Especially the first half, where there's lots of scenes running around and you're like, I don't care, I just don't care. So that's kind of a calm down. It's exactly the film you'd expect the first one to be, but the first one goes well above it. It's this kind of middle of the road adaptation of a pot boiler that was a bestseller, that's got a character people know the name of, and let's throw something out, hope for the best. It's something like Kiss the Girls with Morgan Freeman, that kind of thing. And the first one managed to go beyond that, and the second one just fell right into that trap, made this bland movie that could have been made for TV quite easily. But it's made with a bigger budget. But it's not interesting. It's just not interesting. And I'm pretty sure the TV show mimic the second film rather than the first, because the first film is harder to do because you need a good writer, director to actually be in charge. And the second film feels like it's much more by committee. Let's do this the safe way. And that's what a lot of TV shows do. So even now in during the golden era, this kind of pot boiler will be a pot boiler show, most likely. But it's, I mean, both films are worth seeing. The first one's really well made and it's really enjoyable to rewatch. The second one I saw years ago, and then I got it again when I bought my new player. I bought a 4K player, and that's one of the discs I got for free with it. So I watched it again and it was like, this is a really dumb film. But I've seen it again. It's enjoyable. If it's on Netflix and you try to kill an hour and a half, it's fine. It's just the first half has some real problems. The lead character's still quite good. Cruise seems to be enjoying himself playing this guy who's a bit of a dick sometimes. You know, he does have to be likeable in these films, which I think he seems to enjoy doing the film, but actually saying mean stuff to people throughout both films. Like, you get a sense he's really enjoying himself to not being the kind of hero character. He gets to be a bit nastier in these films, and that's fun through the films. So see the first one. Second one, if it's free in Netflix, fine, but don't pay money for it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back soon with some other videos, but that's me for now. I'll see you later.